Something Real, Chapter 7. They drove for hours, but what she didn't know is he was texting Paul the whole time on a disposable cell he had bought just in case of circumstance, just like this one. He explained to him what she had told him, and Paul assured Carter only him and their boss, Mitch, knew where he was. They finally stopped in Coffeyville, Kansas to get some rest. She found a mom and pop hotel where too many questions wouldn't be asked. They got a room, and she glanced down the street to see a big box store. She needed to get the dog some food, and Carter needed clothes. She took the dog for a walk and let him do his business. She returned to the room to find Carter fast asleep on one of the beds. She put Winchester in the room and closed the door. She climbed in the truck and grabbed a couple of $100 out of the suitcase. She went down to the store and got what she needed, mostly for Carter. Carter woke up to find her gone, and he panicked. He picked up his phone and called Paul. "Where are you?" "We're in Coffeyville, Kansas, and she's gone." "What?" Paul's heart started to sink. "She's gone?" Carter then caught a glimpse of the dog. "Wait, her dog is here. She must have just gone to get something. I think it's time to get Crow and his team in on it," Paul told him and looked over at Mitch, who nodded. "I think you're right. Where's he now?" "He just so happens to be in Wichita." Paul sighed, knowing this would end soon. "Send him this way. She's going to hate me for it, but we need to get her back in." She returned to the hotel to find him standing outside with his arms crossed. "Where were you?" he asked angrily. "I went to the store," she said as she put the bags on a bed. "You should have known I didn't leave. The dog was still here." She finished bringing in all of the bags, grabbed some food out of the ice chest, and some utensils out of the picnic basket. She dug through the bags, gathered all of the clothing and the laundry soap. She put some dog food in a bowl for him and walked out of the room. "Where are you going?" Carter watched her, knowing she had this exit plan for a while. "I'm going to wash the clothes I just bought," she said, and pulled a roll of quarters out of her pocket. They ended up in the breezeway, just down from their room. She peeled all of the tags off and threw each piece in the washer. The detergent was next, and then the quarters in the coin slot. She walked over to the wall and slid down to the concrete sidewalk. Carter joined her and watched as she opened the container of food. She ate heartily, but soon had her fill. "Can I have some?" Carter asked her. She pushed the container with the fork on top to him without even a glance. He picked it up and began to eat. "How could you do that to me?" She continued to stare at the washer she sat across from. "I'm not just anyone. I'm one of you. I did nothing wrong. I didn't do anything to you. I love you. I meant it every time I said it." Carter looked over at her as he finished his portion of the food. "I wanted to keep you safe." She pulled out her cigarettes and lit one. "When did you start smoking?" "I had quit when I went in, trying to change any little thing I could. I'm not really a blonde. I have more of a dark brown to black hair. I had quit about a year ago myself." He picked up the pack and the lighter she had left on the ground and took one. The two were quiet for a long time as they thought. "Abby, I'm just trying to keep you safe. I was fine for almost 2 years. No one could find me until you guys got involved." Abby shook her head. She started to cry again. "Ever since I've been wrapped up with the FBI and the marshal's office, my life has been crap." She took a moment to gather herself. "And you do this shit. You can't do this on your own, Abby." Carter watched her as she thought. "I don't want to do this on my own. I have to." Abby wiped off her face and stood up to move the clothes from the washer to the dryer. She finished and moved back to her spot. "I was finally feeling normal again." "What do you mean?" Carter questioned her and turned to her. She swiveled her head around, really looking at him for the first time since this started. "With you I had a life." She barely got out the last few words as she started to cry. She covered her face as the tears poured out. Carter moved next to her and held her as she cried. She soon recovered and was focused again on the clothing. She sat quietly for a long time, wondering how she got here. She wondered if the clothes in the dryer were done and got up to check them. They were dry, and she couldn't believe she had been sitting there for an hour and a half. She started to fill a laundry bag with the clothing when she looked up to see 2 of the men from Crow's team walk into the far end of the breezeway. She turned to see Crow and 2 more of his men. There was no escape. She turned to Carter, a look of betrayal on her face. "You can't do it alone anymore," Carter told her, and stood up. She finished putting the clothing in the bag and threw it at him. "It's mostly yours. I'm assuming you can get the few things that are mine to me." She then walked off with Crow and his men. Abby, I'm glad that we found you, but I want to let you know we're not leaving you this time. We're going to stay with you, Crow told her as they walked along the sidewalk surrounded by his team. Okay, Abby said, but it was more of a non-response. Nothing had worked out since she started this. But I need to know, why didn't you call us? Crow was relieved to have her back in custody, but still a little peeved she didn't follow protocol. Can I talk to you alone? She asked him when they entered the room. Crow turned to his men and nodded. They went outside and waited by the door. Crow stepped over and closed the door. What is it? After I got shot at in my home in Kearney, I went to the secondary location on the other side of town. I went down an alley and approached from the back. I thank God I did that because it was compromised too. There was a man in the kitchen area. The house was dark and his gun was drawn. It was probably just an agent waiting on you to get you out of there. Crow tried to rationalize, but he knew better. You were one of the first marshals at the secondary location? She asked, and he nodded slowly, wondering what her point was. Was there anyone there waiting on you or me? Crow didn't say anything. There wasn't anyone there when he arrived. Let that sink in for a minute, and then tell me what you would have done. Abby continued to collect her things. Did you see who it was? Yes, I did. I'll never forget his face. How did you see him if the house was dark? There were 2 street lights in the alley, and one of the neighbors had a floodlight near the fence line. Crow nodded and opened the door back up. The things she had gathered in the hotel room were taken to a waiting van. What about my truck? One of the guys will follow us with the truck and the dog. No, the dog comes with me. Fine, but give him your keys. Crow motioned to one of his men as Carter walked in the room. She tossed the keys to the marshal and continued with the tasks at hand. Carter picked up the dog's leash, attached it to his collar, and walked the dog over to a patch of grass. She continued and finally finished when Carter returned. She took the leash from him without a word and turned to Crow. You're in the van. Crow nodded toward the van. Her and 3 of the agents joined the driver. Crow turned to Carter as soon as they got on the interstate. How long have you felt that way about her? It's that obvious? Carter questioned, and Crow nodded. Several months now. How serious is it? Carter didn't answer, and he knew what that meant. You slept with her? Crow asked quietly, not wanting to hear the answer. No, but we wanted to. Carter breathed out, and then turned to look out the window. Shit, Crow said under his breath, but he was relieved it didn't go that far.